I don't want to know how people feel. All I want to know is what viruses feel. I prefer viruses because they make no move to encroach on me from the other side of my microscope. They leave me free to let my thoughts wander as I wish. And while I may be true to say I understand viruses, I've never been able to understand my fellow humans. I don't know them. I don't know a single fundamental thing about them. With Tanaka dead, trying to use the backup passwords to the fingerprint scanner had become a hopeless endeavor. The only remaining means of gaining entry to the storage area was to issue an emergency unlock request of the electronic lock manufacturer. In order to do that, they need approval from the 6 members of the board of directors. Returning to his study, Osawa called Makino's personal cell phone. "What is it?" Makino said gruffly as soon as he picked up. Osawa informed him of the situation, including Tanaka's death and the fact that Maria was infected. The news left Makino at a loss for words. "Please," Osawa begged, "you need to hold an emergency board meeting." Makino was silent for a few moments. "I'm afraid I can't do that." "Why not? Are you just going to sit by and let my daughter die?" Osawa raged. "And not just her. Maria goes symptomatic. Maria goes symptomatic." That was still only an if, but Osawa was reluctant to put his fears into words. "She goes systematic, the UL virus will sweep through all of Tokyo." "I realize that," Makino replied, "but one of the board members is overseas on business. Holding a meeting is impossible." Despite the gravity of the situation, he sounded astoundingly nonchalant. Osawa couldn't back down now. "There must be some other option, like a web conference or something." "That doesn't help us if we can't get in touch with him," Makino huffed. "He went missing a few days ago in the middle of his business trip." Wow. Oh, man. Head of Okoshi Pharmaceuticals New York branch has been missing since April 25th at 9 p.m. local time. There have been no demands for a ransom, and so the New York Police Department is investigating the possibility of some other form of foul play. Sal was almost too appalled to be angry. "It's the most ridiculous lie I've ever heard. Would you like to speak to my on-site contact if you don't believe me?" It was like arguing with a child. The Makino was deliberately working against them. He'd never know if this disappearance is real or not. "In that case, can you please appoint a representative instead?" Osawa pleaded. "Selecting a representative is a complicated process. And if we started right now, it will take until sometime tomorrow afternoon to complete." "Tomorrow afternoon? And then it would be too late for any of this to matter." "Sir, can't you see how absurd the things you're saying are?" "What would you have me do?" Makino barked. "These are the realities of corporate politics." "I understand, sir. You will do nothing for my daughter. That's what you're saying." "That's not what I'm saying," Makino replied. "Look, I'll see what I can do to appoint a representative more quickly." He hung up. His tone suggested that waiting for an appointee wouldn't be a terribly helpful prospect. With no more allies, Osawa thought. All I've left now are foes. Couldn't count on anyone anymore. Osawa was just going to have to get the antiviral by himself. Still, he just had to take Makino at his word. Right now, that was his only course of action. This is a bad end to this one. Still, he just had to take Makino at his word. Right now, that was his only course of action. Sal sat down in front of his computer and quietly closed his eyes. If only I could just go to sleep and wake up tomorrow morning and find all this resolved. All I'm asking for is a miracle. But he knew reality would never be so kind. He could hold his eyes shut as long as he wanted and couldn't make this hopeless situation go away. He felt anxiety welling up inside him until he seemed like he was going to explode. Needing a distraction from the helplessness, Osawa opened up Bayonet. He knew this was mere escapism, but he couldn't just sit and do nothing while waiting for Makino to call back. He posted a new topic with the title Aya Fortune Teller. I tried the Aya Fortune Teller. My results basically said I was a bad person who can't connect to the people around me. And you know what? That's exactly right. I'm only interested in my own little world. That's probably why my wife and my assistant at work got so fed up with me. It's the same with my 2 daughters. What sort of things are they interested in? Do they have a lot of friends? What are their aspirations for the future? I don't know any of those things. It never even occurred to me to find out. I'm such a terrible father. Osawa's fingers ceased their tapping on the keyboard as he thought back to when Maria and Hitomi were younger. Daddy, Daddy! The 2 girls would follow him around like a pair of puppies. The father was their everything, and that much was clear just by looking at their faces. He felt a ticklish giddiness at having his girls cling to him so. Never felt anything like it in his life, but there were times where he also found it tiresome. I am sick of being the person I am. There's nothing I can do about that, though. I'm sure it's far too late for me to change. He poured out all his negative emotions into his post. Felt like a stream of consciousness drivel, but he didn't hesitate to write it down all the same. He wanted other people to know what a miserable excuse for a human being he was. At last, when he couldn't think of anything else to add, he posted his bitter confession to the forum. He was staring numbly at the monitor when he heard a furious shout from the next room. You've got to be kidding me! It was Kajiwara, and Osawa had never heard him so angry. Wait, Kajiwara said that? I was expecting his wife to say it. Oh shit. Osawa headed into the living room and found Kajiwara embroiled in a vehement argument with the other detectives. I don't care what HQ's policy is. I will not just quietly go along with this. Kajiwara had already screamed himself red in the face. You're out of line, snapped one MPD detective. Kichi Sawatari with the Metropolitan Police Department's first criminal investigation section. PDFCIS. Having heard of Kajiwara's past deeds from friends at the Shibuya precinct, he recommended to his boss that Kajiwara be assigned to the investigation at the Osawa residence. After seeing the detective's interaction with Osawa, he's confident that his recommendation was in the right. However, given the circumstances, he can't help but take a cold stance towards Kajiwara. Hold your tongue. I don't care if I'm out of line. You may have talent, I'll give you that, the other detective said. But you're a precinct detective, and this isn't your jurisdiction. It's not your place to question orders from higher up. Wait, Osawa thought. Kajiwara really is a real detective after all? Go on, explain the situation to Mr. Osawa. Kajiwara bit his lip in frustration at the other detective's order. Very well, he said. Before he could any more, Osawa noticed that the police equipment had all been cleared off of the table. Hold on, Osawa said. What's going on? Has something happened? Allow me to explain, sir, Kajiwara said. His bitterness showed plainly on his face. We've been recalled, sir. The MPD has established a security force headed by members of its Public Security Bureau to deal with the bioterrorist threat because the kidnapping task force has not yet found Maria, and she is infected with the virus. The task force personnel have instead been absorbed to the security force and will continue their work under its direction. Sawa narrowed his eyes, fighting to keep the confusion from his face. What do you mean by that? He was shaking, terrified to have his suspicions confirmed. I'm truly sorry, sir, for having been unable to help you. Kajiwara gave a deep and solemn bow. But Maria? What's going to happen to Maria? Another unit has been tasked with bringing your daughter into custody, sir. That much at least Osawa could process. You're going to place her under quarantine, aren't you? Kajiwara's lips stiffened, but he nodded. In order to minimize the spread of the virus, I'm told. No, Osawa cried. You can't do that. If you do, there won't be any way to save her, said Spun. Please, I beg of you. You need to get Maria to me. I might be able to save her. Kajirawa didn't respond. He turned to the other detectives. Please! Don't... You can't place Maria under quarantine. The detective's only answer was to avert their eyes. Why are you all ignoring me? Please, you have to listen. If you bring her to me, I can figure something out. I know I can. Plunked himself down on the floor, yelling and flailing his arms like a child throwing a tantrum. The detectives exchanged stolen looks with one another and then walked off and left him there. He knew he must be a sorry sight, but nevertheless he kept shouting after them. Please don't stand by and let my daughter die! Only Kajirawa remained with him in the living room. I'm sorry, sir. This was beyond my ability to stop. He gave another apologetic bow. Osawa felt suddenly deflated. No, you've done a fine job, Detective Kajiwara. It's me who should be sorry. I made such a disgraceful display of myself. It's not true, sir. In fact, I'm deeply moved. I can tell how much Maria must mean to you. Osawa shook his head. If I'd really been thinking about Maria, I would have made an effort to work with you detectives more. That was all just self-absorbed shouting, a moment of emotional selfishness. And yet as a result, you convinced me to stay here with you. Kajirawa proceeded to pull out his phone and put in a request with the task force headquarters to remain at the Osawa residence. Got into a heated spat with his commanding officer, but ultimately received permission to stay on as the police liaison with Osawa. Well, the detective said when he'd hung up, you see, there are some people who are legitimately moved by a parental display of emotion. Even if I'm not certain that I can do very much in staying here with you. That's not true, Osawa replied. There's plenty you can help me with. I looked into Kajirawa's face and smiled. For instance, I can have a banana whenever I want. You find things that I've gone missing. That fried egg and rice you made me was delicious. Two of them are food related, and this one's like actually something you can actually do. Has he done this? Because I know about the banana, I know about the egg, fried eggs on rice. Find these that have gone missing. Is that true though? Let me see if that's true. I'm trying to remember everything that I went through with them. I feel like it's more like a half truth. Hold on, I was actually trying to decide here. Holy crap. I feel like this one's the more that's like more things I probably do something for. Or the two just things he actually did do. You find things that have gone missing. Ah, like that plane ticket you mean. Kajirawa gave a bashful smile. Yes, I never had found it if I hadn't been here, detective. Well, like they say, you can never find something when you're looking for it. An end of sadness came to Kajirawa's eyes and his voice grew quieter. My daughter. She had this little toy ring that she loved and she lost it in our house somewhere. Didn't realize you had a daughter, detective. She just started grade school this year. Oh. Oh, really? She must be adorable. Well, I don't get to see her as much as I'd like. Lonely sort of smile crossed Kajirawa's face. Why is that? Doing this job caused me to neglect my family. Finally, about 2 years ago, my wife hit me with a divorce paperwork. Shit. I wanted to be able to keep our daughter with me, but, well, the law tends to favor the mother when it comes to custody issues. The detective pulled 2 bars of chocolate from his pocket. Sal accepted one, but said nothing. The toy ring she lost, I bought it for her as a birthday present. She loved it so much she cried and cried when it was gone. I looked all over for it. The detective bit into his own chocolate bar with a sort of snap. So then later, this toy ring, I found it after my wife took our daughter away. And you know where it was? Sal shook his head slightly. Under my daughter's mattress. fell out when the bed was being taken out of her room. Isn't that funny? That it was somewhere I never would have found it if she'd stayed. Another sad smile came to Kajiro's face before he went on. Guess there wasn't much point, though, finding it after she was already gone. Man. The man had lost his daughter. Osawa couldn't help but sympathize. Here was someone he could really talk to. He was sure of that much now. Detective, I apologize. I've kept things from you because I was worried that they involved classified corporate information. Oh, Ichiro's eyes glimmered with interest. Earlier today I received some emails. They could be pertinent to the case. Would you mind letting me see them? Osawa shook his head. On the contrary. Back in front of his computer, Osawa saw that A-net was still open. Pretty Honey had responded to his forum post. One moment, just let me read this. Osawa read the response. There's no time to be looking at the internet. Osawa closed the browser. One moment, just let me read this. Osawa read the response. I got that same result. Do you really think it's too late? Don't give up hope. Hang in there. Now that I know who it is, it's like, Jesus, this is just funny. It's never too late. Every family has its share of problems. Like you'll never find one that doesn't, I'm sure. When it comes to family, there's no such thing as game over. So don't let it get you down, Julie. Besides, I did learn one thing from reading your post. In the end, a father's happiness is his daughter's happiness. Kajira appeared into the monitor. A young girl is posting to a forum for people 40 and older. It's Pretty Honey. She's always replies to my threads. The detective furrowed his brow. I see. Something the matter? No, the last line there just has me curious is all. A young girl writing something like that? That's neither here nor there right now. Let me see those emos if you would. That's how I'll open his email. You pulled up the images of the human testing on the monitor. What is this? Kajiwara stared at the monitor as if unable to look away. These are images from unauthorized clinical testing of an antiviral drug I developed, carried out by a company without my knowledge. Images of... I'm sorry, what was that? The detective frowned at the unfamiliar terminology. In simple terms, antiviral is a wonder drug to combat the UO virus. Hold on. Maria is infected with the UO virus, isn't that right? Yes, UO is a species of virus discovered in South Africa relatively recently. Roughly 12 hours after infection, patients develop a cough, then a fever, then begin vomiting, and ultimately begin to bleed uncontrollably from all over, resulting in death. The mortality rate is... Osawa was reluctant to say it. Kajara held his breath waiting. It's nearly 100%. Kajara shuddered. But wait, he said after a moment. If you have this wonder drug, then Maria... Osawa shook his head. Without Tanaka, I have no means of getting it out of the lab. Kajara's frown deepened. I see. There may not be much to go on, but I think we can put together at least one piece of our little mystery here. Something difficult or impossible to explain? An enigma. You see plenty of books titled The Mystery of Such and Such or The Secret or whatever on bookstore shelves. When you read them, you're invariably disappointed by the mystery not being the mysterious after all. Pardon me one moment. Jiro inspected the email address of the sender, A, then brought up the email header. You don't see email addresses like this much. It's seemingly from a foreign country, but that may be fake. You can tell that just from the email? The detective flashed a little grin. Take a look here. So if we just do this, and then this, his fingers flew over the keyboard calling up the header details, singling out the received from a field. Instead of 4 numbers, at the bottom is the sender's IP address. Think of it as an ordinary hidden location marker of sorts. As he spoke, the detective pulled up a website called IP Station. He copied and pasted the set of 4 numbers and pressed the enter key. The monitor showed the name of the provider connection method and other such details. A vendor that provides an internet connection service. The typical internet connection requires a medicated line. dedicated line. I'm watching too many medical terms. Customers who do not already have one must make a contract for one with a provider. When the provider establishes your connection to the internet, you're assigned an identifying number called an IP address. Osawa couldn't make heads or tails of most of it, but one thing drew his eye. Access point Shibuya Ward, Tokyo? Kajiwara went into the email program's options and checked the server info for Osawa's connection. Deep furrows formed in his forehead. This is the same provider that you use, Mr. Osawa. What does that mean? What kind of internet connection do you have here at your house? What sort? Well, it's plugged in over there, but... Osawa pointed at the router. And does everyone in your family use that same line? Yes, I think so. Kajiwara opened up a command prompt and typed ipconfig. A literal prompt for users to issue computer control commands via keyboard instead of mouse. Also frequently used to refer to the window or program along for such. Okay, so if the same numbers we saw before pop up here, that's a bad sign. Oh? Sawa stared at the monitor. Kajiwara pressed enter and a black window covered in white alphanumeric characters appeared. What the heck? Kajiwara muttered under his breath. Wait, what's going on? Osawa asked. Explain simply so that I can understand. Faking an email address is simple enough, but the typical person wouldn't be able to fake an IP. It's very likely that these emails were sent from another computer inside this house. Osawa had a stifled gasp. The emails had been sent from his own house at around 11 o'clock that morning. Since Osawa hadn't sent them himself, that left only one possible culprit. Suddenly his phone rang, nearly startling him out of his seat. Kino's name showed on the incoming call display. Osawa quickly picked up. Is there an update on the emergency board meeting? He blurted. Kino's voice was quiet and subdued. I tried pulling whatever strings I could, but to no avail. I'm afraid holding a board meeting today just won't be possible. The phone fell from Osawa's hand. His only possible means of saving Maria was now gone. To be continued.